G'day, I'm Tim Thompson. You used to be able to tell a lot about a person and the job they did in ag by the colour and style of clothing they wore. And then we all got safety conscious. Yeah, great. It does its job, it keeps us safe, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's boring. Well, there's a company doing something about that. I had the chance to talk to Ed recently, one of the directors of Trademutt. This is personally one of the most inspiring interviews that I have done on this channel so far. I hope you can spare the next few minutes, and if you're in business anywhere in the world, this is going to resonate with you. At the end, don't forget to hang around because I'm going to tell you about a great competition where you can win lots of stuff, like Davo's fencing clips, spiral fast wire joiners, and some great truckers caps from Trademutt. As always, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up. Now let's get stuck into the conversation with Ed. Ed, mate, thank you very much for giving up time on your weekend. My big question to you, mate, is why do I look like a pineapple?
Why you look like a pineapple? Well, you're wearing one of our conversation starter work shirts. So it's a Trademutt work shirt. It's designed to start conversations about mental health and, as we say, make an invisible issue impossible to ignore.
Well, it's certainly impossible to ignore, mate. It's much bigger than my personality, that's for sure. Tell me a little bit about why we're doing a shirt for mental health in Australia.
Yeah, so myself and my best mate, Dan, two chippies from Brisbane, about 4 years ago, we're working on the tools. We always wanted to do something a bit different in the workwear space because there was just no variety. And then Dan lost a close mate to suicide. Tragically one weekend here. And it sort of just changed everything for us, sort of opened our eyes to just how big of an issue mental health was and how misunderstood it is in this country, especially among blokes and the blue-collar workforce. So we had to look into it. We decided that we could make a bit of a difference, found out what social enterprise was and profit for purpose. And we thought this is a perfect, opportunity for us to not only start a business, but also make some positive social change and, make some impact in the world.
Now, looking at the issue of mental health, particularly in the rural landscape, not only in Australia, but over in the US and various other countries that I've had a look at, there is a massive hole, isn't there, in regional areas, and particularly for the unrepresented, very remote areas. I mean, you look at access to trained psychiatrists and things like that, and you've got 13 or 14 trained psychiatrists per 100,000 in cities. It goes down to 2 in remote areas. And yet you've got a 20% higher incidence rate of hospitalizations, far higher suicide rates, nearly double. There is an absolute need for mental health support in rural and regional areas. And so what your argument is that there's room for private industry like yourselves, social startups, to actually move into that space and provide a bit more support, because traditionally speaking, for whatever reason, governments have not been able to fill that space.
Well, I think, so like from Trademutt itself, like we've started our own non-for-profit, which is TAX. So it's a text and call service direct to clinical psychologists. The reason we've started that is basically there's too many barriers to entry, and especially, you look at the rural landscape. I'm born and bred in Longreach. I worked in one of the biggest cattle stations in the world in the territory for 3 years. So I know that all too well, and just how much of a disconnect it is out there for people to access private sector mental health care, let alone tradies here in Brisbane. So starting TAX is obviously our way of being able to remove the physical and financial barriers and locational barriers people currently have to access private sector mental health care. And the sentiment around government intervention, I think, to be completely honest, I don't think it works when it comes from the government. Most of the time, it's not relatable. It's not speaking to the everyday consumer. If government advertising worked, no one in this country would smoke, no one would speed. Everyone would wear a seatbelt, no one would pick their phone up and text while they're driving. So, I mean, the idea that the government needs to be the one responsible to be making this change, I don't actually really agree on that. I believe that it needs to come from people that are relatable. I hope to think that Dan and I and what we're doing is relatable and cutting through. I mean, in the 10 months that TAX has been operational, we've had over 1,700 contact hours.
So that's 1,700 hours of qualified
support.
psychological support to people that require it.
Yeah, for free, and that's been via text and calls. So I mean, it's we know it works. Now it's getting government assistance, not being government run, getting more government funding to be able to just multiply and hire more psychologists. I mean, that's been our thing from the start, a high dollar percentage of change. So, you know, our charitable organisation doesn't need to provide any sort of marketing or advertising or paid spend on that. You know, Trademutt and our customers, like you are today, wearing our shirt, is doing the advertising for our non-for-profits. So more people are accessing that, which is really cool.
And that's the whole point of the shirts, isn't it? I mean, if they weren't bold, weren't different, didn't stand out, they wouldn't start a conversation. And I suppose what you're saying is the traditional sorts of ads for smoking and speeding and things like that just don't work. Whereas if it's a conversation between two blokes or two girls or two young people while they're sitting at the bar or they're fishing or they're at a horse race or something like that, that's what's going to actually get people thinking about mental health in a positive way, in a way that encourages them to get help.
Yeah, well, I mean, the mental health narrative has been, you know, it's been doomed from the get-go, you know what I mean? If people have got a physical ailment, if someone breaks their leg, everyone's, you know, patting them on the back saying, you know, hope you're feeling better soon. You can see it, they go to the doctor and they get help. Whereas, you know, the idea around mental health, people believe that's people with just anxiety and depression. But the thing is, we've all got mental health. Every single person does. There's a difference between mental illness and mental health. So everyone needs to eat well. Everyone needs to sleep well at night. Everyone needs to be able to exercise and look after themselves. And they also need to be making sure they're looking after their head as well. So, it affects everyone. It's the idea that mental health only is only anxiety and depression is the wrong narrative. That's not what it is.
So you guys, you're not only starting the conversation, but you're then backing it up by funding highly qualified interventions. And that's like, congratulations, guys. I believe it's your birthday today.
Thanks, mate. Yep. Turned 3 this week. So, Trademutt turned 3 this week. And TX has been operational for just over 10 months. So, it's really cool.
So that's an incredible story. You've got a lot of penetration now. You've got large companies now supplying your shirts as workwear for their employees. You've really made a big dent on the market. And I suppose that's probably because there was a high need and a lot of people have felt that, you know, you're doing the right thing, but it also requires some smarts. What's it like in this country, at least, trying to get a social startup going? I mean, it's not something that's commonly spoken about.
No, I mean, I think that like the idea around starting business, you've got to show a level of vulnerability and put yourself out there. Well, sorry, still there?
Yeah, still there.
Show a level of vulnerability and putting yourself out there and having a go. I mean, that's just the Aussie way, you know, put your hand up and have a go. To say that Dan and I have done it well would be, incorrect. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has stuff ups, you know. I mean, there's lots of trips and falls along the way. I think the most important thing, it's like looking after yourself, mentally and physically. It's you pick yourself up and you keep going. The journey never ends. And the idea around success, you know, we had Jared Gossens on our podcast, the blind Paralympian. He's climbed Mount Everest twice, and his idea.
Spruik your podcast, mate. Go ahead, spruik it. Give it a shout out. My viewers might be interested.
Trademutt Radio, So we've had some really cool guests, and Jared Gossens is one of those guests that's going to be coming out the next couple of weeks, and he talks around about success isn't a destination, it's the journey. And the idea of continually, changing, creating, and updating where you're going. There's no end point. It's just the narrative that you continue to, develop. So that's the whole thing around our business as well, and just keeping it going. It's really cool.
One of the things I've learned, and I completely agree with you, no one is perfect and no business is perfect. But one of the biggest joys I get is speaking to highly successful people in the rural area. When I do my over the fence videos, and my favorite question is, what's the biggest mistake you ever made and what did you learn from it? Because I think success comes out of errors and success comes out of mistakes. If you did everything well, you'd probably fail.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Well, I suppose, our biggest mistake and failure was, at one stage in our business, we stopped backing ourselves and thought we better invest in other people to be telling us what we should be doing when it was, us that got us there in the first place. So believing in yourself and back yourself and not giving up on the, how you got to where you were and where you want to go. You're the best person to be driving that rather than someone else. That's probably the biggest mistake we've made so far. Agency type related, where we're like, oh, well, these people are going to know better. They've been doing this longer than us. Let's, plug in there and they've got our best interests when, that's never the case. No one's as keen to make it happen as much as you are individually of your own thing. So that was a big lesson for us. And it was great and lucky we did it early rather than later on.
So if someone else is starting a social startup, 3 big pieces of advice that you'd give them, what would be your top 3?
Well, make sure that, the social startup thing is if you're going to be in a social enterprise and you want to make, social impact, it can't just be for the sake of that as the marketing ploy. You've got to be wholeheartedly invested in what you want to make change in, rather than just, donating to a charity or producing somewhere for us, just for as a marketing cause. I mean,
which is why you started your own foundation, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because we want to be able to, have complete control of over our outcomes. It was never for us to donate to Blue, Beyond Blue or Lifeline or, Black Dog Institute or anything like that. We wanted to have complete control end to end in what we were doing. So I think that's the first and most important thing, but you don't have to start your own charity. You just need to be wholeheartedly invested in what you want to do socially. The second thing is, find a market and product fit and make sure that if the first idea you had doesn't work, pivot and go again. You know what I mean? I've had plenty of business ideas and they haven't worked out, but pivoting and finding the right one where consumer wants to, be a part of it is so important. The third thing is just continually, adapting. Your first customers, they're your biggest salespeople, making sure that you're communicating with them and ask them, what to improve and how to get better. I think that's, crucial.
That's amazing advice, mate. And it holds true for most of the businesses that I've certainly had the pleasure to discuss those topics with, and it's a very common theme. Now, you've been in the manufacturing space now for 3 years, and there's a lot of discussion around manufacturing, and there's a really interesting story. You came out with a 100% grown, manufactured, designed, and marketed shirt, and it was created a few issues for you. Would you want to talk me through that? Because I think we need to reframe what business is about in Australia, about whether it's 100% making or whether it's about 100% employing. Can you just talk me through that experience? Because it's interesting.
Yeah, well, as you said, we've been in the market now for 3 years, and people have always been asking us, Australian made. We'd love it to be Australian made, and to be honest, we would love it to be Australian made too. We couldn't do our work shirts because there was no one that was able to do that for us in Australia. But we brought out some t-shirts. I've got one of them on today. So it was cotton that was grown in St George, Queensland. It sadly has to get exported to England to get spun, and then it comes back, fabric in bolts. And we're buying the bolts of fabric. We're getting them, all cut, handmade here in Australia. The process was difficult to say the least. There was no one-stop shop where you could get it all done in one place. We couldn't even get the people who screen printed our products to fold them and put them back in a box so we could find someone to fold them.
That's hilarious. So your screen printer wouldn't fold and your folder wouldn't screen print.
Fold them for us. So we had to find someone. So, that product changed hands around about I'd say at least 5 or 6 times. So 5 or 6 different companies, so our
and everyone's putting their bid on, and wages are high in Australia.
Absolutely. So this garment here, it costs us about $45 a piece just to get made. So
could you sell it?
We put it at our not even our standard gross margin. So we only put it up 50%. And no one was buying them for $90. It just, the idea around Australian made is fantastic, but the issue is that people normally don't want to front up the cost to buy it. That's probably the biggest issue for us. So, the idea around 100% Australian employed, we've got 12 full-time staff. In Trademutt, we've got 3 full-time staff in our charity. So, that's 15 people. If we were making everything in Australia, we'd probably have a team of just Dan and I, Max. And yeah, I don't think we'd be making anywhere near as much impact as we currently are. So,
but having said that, you get these shirts made overseas, but you've found a way, and this is the classic Aussie story. I love this initiative that you've taken. Even though you're getting the shirts made overseas, good is coming from that too. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we made our hoodies last year, our high vis polo shirts, short and long sleeve polo shirts with She Rescue Home in Cambodia. So it's working with women that have been caught up in the sex trafficking industry in Southeast Asia. They're rehomed, rehabilitated, taught new skills, obviously, sewing, which is really cool. And then they're just brought back into society, which is amazing. It's a safe haven for those women, so we've been able to support that. So it's through the She Rescue Home and It's Not Okay projects. We've also worked with Barallan, actually, with Work Restart. It's a prison inmate system outside of Brisbane here. So for the products that we've got on our website that, there might be some 4XLs or extra smalls or something like that we can't move, we'll just get them rather than, turning them into rags. We upcycle those products and turn them into boot covers, scrunchies and stuff like that. So we've got, maximum security prisoners we work with. They're learning new trades and new skills as well. So when they come out of prison, the idea is that their rate of reoffending is drastically lowered because they've learnt new skills and can come back into society, and get full-time employment, which is really cool. So they're a couple of the touch points we're making with our social impact on the manufacturing side. And we're also working with Indonesia at the moment to work with some more social enterprise manufacturers there as well.
So there is an absolute ability for Australian manufacturers who can't afford to manufacture some or part of their product in Australia to actually think about the social impact of creating employment overseas and doing it for the right reasons. So your Cambodian story, for example, and then reworking your gear over here in Australia with prisoners to rehabilitate them. Amazing social effort. And if you think about how you do business, there are all sorts of opportunities to make the world a better place, not just in Australia, but everywhere else as well. And we're all humans. We've got that, we owe that debt to everyone in the world, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're also making, more employment here in Australia. We work with Sendable. So they're our third-party logistics warehouse dispatch company. So they work with Multicap. So we've got anywhere between 7 and 10 people every day with a disability that have got employment through our business, dispatching, packing and sending our shirts out. So we've been able to provide, since our partnership started with them in August last year, about 8,500 hours of employment to people with a disability that would have been otherwise in full-time care. So I mean, that's also another really cool touch point and social impact that we're making. So yeah, it's great.
Well, mate, I love what you're doing, and I hope we can talk again at some point in the future and get your input again. I'm running a little competition at the moment. I don't know how much you know about that, but it's Help Out a Mate with Trademutt. And awesome. The idea is I've got all these amazing people who watch my videos, not only in Australia, but around the world. I actually got a video 2 nights ago from Uruguay on how to strain a fence with a Uruguayan fence straining tool. And I've got some amazing input from people coming in, and they're getting giveaways. So Davo's fencing clips have jumped on board, Spiral Fast have jumped on board, and we're giving away products to people that end up featured in the Help Out a Mate video. And awesome. The best video is going to get this shirt, but as I've mentioned already, it'll probably need a bit of a wash.
Yeah, 100%.
Mate, we'll keep you in touch, and thank you for being a touchstone and trying to start sort of a sharing community amongst the video crowd here. If people want to get involved with that, all they have to do is go to my website and flick me an email, and I will send them a link to upload their video on their top tip or their top skill. So thank you very much, Ed, for being the touchstone to start that conversation. Hopefully it's something that's successful. It's a bit of a risk because not everyone's really good at commenting on videos, but not everyone's good at getting behind the camera, mate, like you are today.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. No, I really appreciate it. And yeah, if anyone watching wants to reach out and access the TX support service, the phone number is 04888 469 88, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So really appreciate it.
I'll be putting that in the description below, along with Lifeline and a few other support services. But TX will be number one.
Awesome. That's great.
And,
thanks, Tim.
You're doing a good job, mate. And thank you so much for spending your day with us and telling us all about your journey.
Appreciate it, mate. Have a great day.
Now let's get straight to the competition. All you need is a mobile phone that can take reasonable video. What you do is you film a skill or a tip for 1 to 2 minutes maximum. Flick me an email. You can get onto me through my website, timthompson.ag, and tell me about your skill that you want to share with your mates on YouTube. If you're one of the lucky ones that gets chosen to demonstrate your skill on YouTube, you'll get a gift pack of Davo's fencing clips, a gift pack of Spiral Fast, and a Trademutt trucker's cap. Then the best tip, as voted by viewers, gets this shirt off my back. You might have to wash it. Let's make this YouTube channel a collaborative space where we help out a mate. Thanks very much to Trademutt and my other major sponsors for making this competition possible. And as always, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week. This is workwear that's making a difference. Go and get some.